Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. This week, I have second-time guest out of Chester, New York, founder of Patriot Insurance Group, Mr. Rob Bowen. How are you doing today, sir?
I am well, Brad. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am excited to have you back on the show with a specific agenda today. We are going to have a Talking Tech episode with Mr. Bowen. I do not know anybody that has more tech in their agency than Rob. I don't think he's seen a piece of technology that he doesn't like. So I'm interested and Rob is the tell it like it is guy. So he's going to give us a good insight into these programs that he's used in in the last couple of years. So we're going to get a good idea of what's out there and what works for the agency. So Rob, thanks for doing this. I am looking forward to it. So let's get right in.
Okay.
We all have, or, to some degree have the shiny object syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And we all want to utilize tech to help enhance our businesses. And so, granted, I think any of these that we talk about, it's just some that we've had experience with. Doesn't mean one is better than the other. I think it's just a useful exercise to go through what we're using, whether it be CRM or any of these other programs that are out there for us to use to discuss what they can do for our agency, what the benefit is, and what our experience is.
Yep.
So I think we'll start with the CRM. I believe you and I both use Agency Zoom.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
What functions are you using Agency Zoom for, and how would you say it benefits your agency?
Well, I think if you don't mind, I'll take a step back.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't know what a CRM is.
Yeah.
Or what the
You're right.
Is. And I'm guilty of that. You asked me this question 3 years ago. I would have looked you with deer in the headlight looks like, what is this gentleman talking about? What I've done is I have made a choice that my AMS and my CRM are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like everyone should have non-negotiables. What I don't do is bounce AMS, bounce CRM because it's painful. It's awful. I switched out of one management system into Hawksoft, and I'm a small agency, and it was awful. I got Agency Zoom. I got it because of the people I met. I like working with good people, and they're good. They're good people. This was pre them being bought by Vertafore,
right?
And we've stuck with it. And what I've done is I needed kind of a mindset shift of all the different ways Agency Zoom can work. So we use it for our sales pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
We use it for my E&S renewal business. So we use it for internal processes and for external processes. So once you have a CRM, sky's the limit. You can build whatever you want.
Yeah.
They all kind of do the same thing, right? It's all kind of reminder, task-based, send an email, send a text, I call it the hugs and kisses to the clients, follow up on so you don't lose people. But you got to stick with one and you got to just keep building it out. So we started with the sales pipeline.
Yep, us too.
Four stages, simple.
Yep.
New quote, quoting, presented, sold, right? Keep it simple. I think what happens, and I see this happen, and I was guilty of this until I had a friend of mine hit me with a 2x4, which usually works well with me. And don't overthink this thing. Start with two. Start with two pipes. New client, present it. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you just build the templates and build the automation and build whatever you need to do. And people are willing to share. I'm willing to share exactly what I do with anybody. I'll do a screen share and say, here's what I do. Don't copy it because it might not work for you, but take some ideas.
Yeah.
And what I found too is within these pipelines is, I can, if we keep having something that needs to get done at a certain point, you create a task, send it to someone in your office, send it to yourself, send it to whatever. But you gotta start somewhere. And I say to people, if you want to ever see me anxious, give me a blank piece of paper and say, go. I can't, but that's what these are.
Yes. Yes. None of them, as I learned, none of them come out of the box ready to go, ready to build out. None of them come out of the box like the demo that you may have done with the bells and whistles on them.
Mm-hmm.
And Agency Zoom was the first, really my first tech purchase, and I learned that you had to build it out, and that was a struggle.
Oh, it's a huge
That was a struggle for me.
It's hard.
You mentioned something there about creating a task. Do you do that right in Agency Zoom, or do you do that? Okay.
Yeah. So with Agency Zoom and Hawksoft, they link. So unfortunately, right now I have multiple tasks. So all Agency Zoom tasks go to Hawksoft. Hawksoft is my E&O protection of my management system. That's all it is. It's an electronic filing box. That's all it is. And everything else around it now needs to feed in there. So I have it for E&O protection. So right now we have it duplicated. But for example, when my E&S policy renews, 7 days later, a task goes to Angelica, who happens to work in Venezuela. And she goes in and makes sure that the coverages have been updated and the premium has been updated. And if there's not a binder there, then guess who gets a Teams message from Angelica? That would be me. Like, hey, Rob, I'm trying to update this, but there's no binder. Where's the binder? And maybe we haven't gotten it yet. Maybe I did get it and it's sitting in my email. But it's that checks and balances that work.
Yeah.
So we've inserted a lot of tasks within our sales pipeline, our renewal pipeline, things like that, just to send tasks to individual people, or you can obviously do round robin and all that kind of fun stuff too. But like you said, they're all empty. I would not want someone to build or sell me all these templates because I'm different than everybody else. Right?
Yes.
So I'd rather not have that. I'd rather do it myself. And, it takes time. Right. It is not fun. It is not easy. But as you do it, you'll start to see how you can automate a lot of stuff within your office.
So I was the same. I wanted I wanted a sales pipeline. And when I took it on, and I want to say that I added it, I could be mistaken, but I believe it was the end of 2018. And that was primarily all I used it for. And then I wanted to build out some other automated campaigns, which in hindsight, I should have hired somebody to do that. Mm-hmm. And at that point, which again was pre the purchase of Vertafore, and the customer service, in my opinion, was a little bit different then, and in my opinion, much better at that point, where you could work with somebody and someone could help you, and you could set up a phone call to build out a home no auto cross sell campaign. I think that's a little more complicated to do that now. Now, if I was taking it on, I would definitely hire one of these consultants. There's a number of them out there. I've connected with Maria Gates, who I know is fantastic, and Justin Miller, who's taken his own time to help me with a couple things. He's been very generous with his time. He's been great to work with. So I would definitely hire one of these people to help build it out. You're going to pay for it, but it's going to be done correctly.
Yep. Well, and the difference too, I think, is your mind shifts. Like when I first got Agency Zoom, I had no idea how to really use it. It's like, okay, what does this really be? Now that you and I have both used it, now our minds can think of other ways to use it. And I agree with you. I work with Justin Miller too. Mariah Gates is out there. Mick Hunt. There's a lot of really solid people. And again, no one's good or bad. It's what's good for you. What I have found is now my mind's changed. My mind's shifted. So now I go, okay, wait a minute. I want to do this. I think Agency Zoom can do it, but I'm not really sure how. Right? I know it can, but I'm not sure if this should be tagging or this should be a new pipeline or, kind of the logistics of it. And that's where these consultants will come in and say, well, come on, Rob, we'll do it this way, or this is the way 10 of my clients do it. How does this work? And you're right, because you get it done faster, and you would get it done. For me, it would be a lot tighter.
Yes.
And a lot less experimenting, which is probably good for me.
And the time savings is massive.
It's huge.
We went from sales pipeline and then to really, really start to use it as a a touch point for our customers. And to start on campaigns, we used it for a large, and I leaned on, in fact, Chris Paradiso put out a huge training on this of a welcome onboard, and he shared everything he did with his touch points, his 28 touch points throughout the year. And so I kind of picked and choose what I wanted from that and created a nice welcome onboard for our new customers throughout the year. We did that. Then we created a home no auto cross-sell campaign to send out an automated message and text and create a task for a phone call for, whichever agent was supposed to do that.
There you go. And it's funny. And Chris is probably a good example. Mike Stromzo has a whole onboarding. I joke, he has a 3-year onboarding, which, I want to do that when I grow up kind of thing. But again, the epiphany for me was, okay, Rob, you're doing nothing right now. So even if you send one email, you're now 100 times better than you were 5 minutes ago. And I did the same thing. I was like, okay, let's do a 60-day, 30-day. That's personal lines, right? So it's personal lines. And, 60, 30, 15, and then, maybe after it, you do something else. But I'm also a big data guy, data integrity.
Yeah.
I've gone to the Chris Paradiso School of Data Integrity and Peggy Corbett's view of the world. And so, like, for example, in that renewal pipeline at day 7, we have a task created for Angelica, and she goes and makes sure it downloaded correctly. Make sure, oh no, this doesn't download. Do we have the deck page? I now need to update the coverages. So now you have we do a data audit process using Agency Zoom as the generator of that task. Why not, again, 7 days after every policy renews, you create a data audit process. I mean, it's a lot of work to do the data audit process, but it's not a lot of work to create that one task.
Yeah.
And then you see what we've done is I see how my team responds to it, and I see how much work it creates. But most of it's, downloaded. So you just go, did it download? Yep. Oh, it didn't. So now we're finding we're doing the exception processing as opposed to processing everything. Right. You can look at Hawksoft and say, okay, it downloaded. We're good. She moves on. Oh, it didn't download. This should download. I now need to send Rob a message, and I go into Ivans and do what I do in Ivans and stuff like that. But it really forces you to make your processes better when you have that back end kind of double check. And all it is a task, right?
Yeah. It just makes our world so easy. I mean, for us as an agency, and you mentioned non-negotiables, I agree with you 100%. A CRM is a non-negotiable in an agency. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that point up about that, the assumption that people know what a CRM is. And I've heard of other people say this, and I want to say it's something like only 32% of agencies that have them. And I don't know why that number just popped in there. It could be lower than that, which is a shocking number, right?
I'm surprised it's that high.
It may not be. That could be way off base. But you know what? I was at a meeting at Safeco headquarters. It was a executive meeting of agents from the Midwest. And so there were other agents from South Dakota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, obviously. They asked who had a CRM in the room. Let's just say there was 20 agents in the room. There were literally 3 hands that went up from agents that had a CRM. I was shocked.
Yeah, I got into I'll call it an argument with someone about, they were like, well, Hawksoft's a CRM.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, yeah, it is. We use it as a CRM. I said, that's a different statement.
Yeah.
You can use Hawksoft as a CRM. You just keep creating suspenses. And I'm sure every management system could do exactly the same thing. You just create the next suspense, right? You call the client, you create the next one to call them in a week. Yeah, that's fine. But that's not a CRM. That's a manual workaround. And I mean, that's fine to do that. I had to judge someone. Most of those people are very successful, but don't think to yourself that that's really a CRM, because you look at any other industry, which is kind of where all of us are learning all this technology. And, they're all on Salesforce, HubSpot, all these other, which are true CRMs.
Correct.
I mean, again, you don't need it, but for me, it's non-negotiable, and I'm not ever going to move it unless it goes away or something really goes south with it. But.
Agreed. So let's, we could have a whole podcast on a CRM and what it does. You do it. I mean, it's that important, and we've leaned on it so much. It's outside of our AMS and our CRM. No doubt about it, are two most important pieces of tech in our agency, probably in most. But so you have, aside from that, so many other pieces. The next one I want to get into is Donna. I know that you've had that for at least a year. So tell us what Donna is and what your experience has been with it.
I've had Donna now. It's probably been almost 2.5 years. And that time's important because Donna is only as good as the data that gets into it. So basically what Donna does, and Thomas Mann's probably going to kill me because he's their customer service guy, but I'm going to try this. It takes information from your management system and creates a centimeter score. How are you doing? Right? So again, it's only as good as how you use your management system, right? So if you don't use your management system and don't log phone calls and don't put notes in, and I don't care what management, it makes no difference. Let's just say, the management system. If you're not putting all that information in there and you're not feeding that information in from maybe other systems, the score's not going to make any sense, right? It's not going to be correct. So what Donna does, I have not connected Donna to third-party sources. Okay, so just to level set this. So I have a version where I am using my management system, all my voicemails, everything we do in Hawksoft. And Donna is allowing me to go in, and now Donna is now attached to ChatGPT. Oh. So they have a product called Donna Knows. This is another one of my filters. If a technology company is adding new features and functions and starts charging me for each one as they do this, I will not work with that technology company in general. I think that's wrong. You got me. I'm paying money. You need to develop where the markets are going. So Donna Knows. Now I can go in with a ChatGPT prompt and say, show me my worst carriers based on centimeter score. That's a lot easier of an interface for Rob Bowen than trying to figure out a report. They have all the reporting. Like I could probably figure it out. So now I can go in and say, show me my renewals for the next 2 weeks. And let me look at my centimeter scores and see which ones make sense. And it's all based on AI, right? Here's where the power, I think, of Donna and Thomas and I talked about this. So I work with a lot of real estate investors. So I have a lot of flippers, right? So they're buying and selling properties. They're binding policies and all of my flippers have awful centimeter scores, awful. But again, now I can go in and say, show me my lowest centimeter scores, and I can see, okay, that's the flipper. And they're all LLCs, so there's a whole list of them. But now I go in and say, that makes sense because they're buying a property, they're buying a policy, holding it for 5 months and canceling it. That's normally a negative, right?
Yeah.
Right. But in this case, so again, you still need the human brain to go into it. Yeah. But now I can go in and go, oh, that makes sense. Or I can go, wait a minute, why is that centimeter score so low? Now I can go into Donna and look at how the centimeter score has adjusted over the last year or so and see where maybe there was an incident. Maybe there was a bad phone call, maybe whatever it was.
Yeah. So tell us what a centimeter score is and basically how it's determined.
So a centimeter score is a score from 1 to 100. And it's determined by the likelihood of the client staying with you or leaving you. So for example, obviously my flippers who are buying and selling that's probably not a good client, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So it shows that. And so what you can do is you can say in your agency, okay, everyone with a centimeter score below 60 needs to be reviewed by a person and figure out why. You make the number up. Everyone's going to be different. My average centimeter score is like 79. Right. So that's, I look at that and go, okay, so maybe we look at everything that's below that. my point when I said 2.5 years was day one, it's just going to be that current information. There's going to be nothing that it pulls. So you want to season the data. That's why I did this a while ago. And I didn't even look at it the first year. Honestly, I just let it flow in there and just kind of let it flow. Didn't even look at it because the data would have been skewed.
It is connected to your phone system, correct? And your email?
No, it is connected to AMS. It is connected to Hawksoft only.
Okay.
But my phone system's connected to Hawksoft, so all my voicemails go there. So everything that's in Hawksoft, that's why my view is you keep feeding Hawksoft with as much data as possible. So all my agency Zoom stuff's in there, all my tasks are in there, all the renewals, so yes, indirectly it is, but it's only your management system it's pulling from. Because
isn't it at some point kind of, reading conversations with that customer to help determine satisfaction? Is that what it's doing?
Okay. Yeah, and they have a secret sauce, so I didn't do it justice. And but it's like I can see things like, well, we had one the other day. I looked at it, sentiment scores a little bit low. I'm like, well, that person had called like 6 times in a week. Well, why are they calling 6 times? Why is, and what happened is they would call and they wouldn't leave a message. They would call. And, so again, you see it and you're like, okay, exception processing. Why is this so low? I go in, they called 6 times. That's just that client. They like to call. It is what it is, and because, as an owner, we don't know every conversation that happens in our office.
No.
So what my view is I want red flags flying if there's a problem. And then I can look at it and say, does that make sense or not? Or do I need to talk to a team member or whatever? But it also drives my other decisions of I need to get as much information in the Hawksoft as possible because now Donna will work better for me.
Okay. So how has it benefited you?
It's really allowed me to look at my book of business by client, by company. I mean, I can tell you the worst companies based on a centimeter score, and it makes perfect sense because their service is awful. They don't answer the phone. They don't have an awful portal. It requires a lot of manual, you can really connect, we have a lot of anecdotal stories as agency owners. Like, I think this carrier is not good to work with.
Yeah.
Now I have proof. Now I don't have definitive proof, but I have, that makes sense.
Yeah. You have some data. Yeah. So you are also using Neon, what Assessor Umbra created, and that, I mean, it's similar in that no, it's not similar at all. Tell us what Neon is and how you're using it and what you've gotten out of it so far.
Yeah, I'm not a full Neon client.
Oh, you're not.
You're going to see a trend here. So I actually met Seth at a mastermind. He's like, "You went Hawksoft?" I'm like, "Yep." He goes, "Oh, would you like to?" I said, "Sure, let's try it." I'm always the first guy to try. I have no problem trying stuff. So what we are honestly doing with Neon right now, there's not a full integration with Hawksoft.
Oh,
so we're sending monthly reports to Neon. They're putting them into the Neon platform, and I can go in and look at, how much service work are we doing? So I'm at a very rudimentary level. I am not I know there are full Neon agencies on Salesforce that I'm not there. That's not where I am.
Okay.
So I just like to preface that because this will help with the answer I'm about ready to give. So I have limited access. It's monthly reporting, so it's not day to day. But what I'm doing is I'm part of the beta team to get this down to where it is going to be a real-time API, back and forth data. The dashboard is incredible. Honestly, I can look at how to compare myself to other Hawksoft agencies, to other this, to, so I can do that now and look at it. But I also know it's just monthly reporting. It's a snapshot in my agency's time at the end of the month with 5 or 6 Hawksoft reports that we send them. They upload them, and then I can look at the KPIs. When they get the two-way API, I'll now have more data in there, which is better. And when that happens, based on, I've got to get the 6.0, but once we all get there, then I'll have back and forth. That might be a while though. I don't know. I'm not going to throw out a date because I'll probably get an email or text from somebody that's like, "What are you doing putting out dates?" But yeah, so I call it Baby Neon. It's very cool. And it's the potential for that. I mean, I can see I shouldn't give my team Wednesdays off because that's where we get most of our service work.
It does. So you do get information out of it specifically
Oh,
about
yeah.
your team.
Oh, yeah. There's information. I mean, what I want to get to is, I will know the cost of every service transaction that we do. Like that's where the full neon guys are right now,
Yes.
guys and girls. I'm not there yet just because I can't. There's just not enough data in there. But I can tell how many activities that my team does, what kind of activities they're doing. And again, it goes back to how good is Hawksoft? How good is that data in Hawksoft? If it's crap, Neon's going to be crap. It just is what it is. Same thing with Donna.
Yeah, that is the capability of how your office is spending their time and what the expense is of your office spending that time.
Huge expense.
It's also going to give you a better sense of the efficiency of your team members. It's true data on who's doing what and how much it costs.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep. And I think I'm sure Seth said this, but so I'll give him credit. But it's not a punitive thing. People think this is like, oh, look, it takes Rob, he costs $35. No, look at Rob. Rob obviously should not be doing mortgage changes. He's awful at them. But look at what he can do when he adds a car. He's really good, right? People tend to go negative on these things. Look at it the positive. Like I'll now be able to go look and say, okay, mortgage changes should be done by the lowest cost person in my office. And now I can go in there and see, okay, yes, this mortgage change should be done by, we have Angelica. She's our virtual assistant. So that's where they should go. But I can see that, okay, so-and-so did 4 of them last month. Hey, you're not doing mortgage changes. Well, it was, the answer. Well, it was quick. I just want to get, okay, great.
Yep.
But no. And I'm guilty. I do mortgage changes. So I'm just as guilty as everyone else here. But now I can see that. And you can't argue with the numbers.
Yeah.
So that's where you get to, like, who's really good at this? Let's push everything towards them.
Well, and Seth is so sharp, it's only going to get better.
He's terrifying how sharp he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's when I have conversations with him, I just feel like I'm hanging on so he doesn't lose it. That's how I feel.
Moving on, another piece of tech or a group that you are doing some beta testing for is Weston Labs. So tell me, I don't know a thing about it. So give me your sense on what it is and what you're doing with them.
The way I understand it is Aubie Knight with the IA in North Carolina, the Independent Agent Association in North Carolina, decided to create an incubator lab for tech companies that work with independent agents. So they had their first cohort of 8 tech companies, indie tech companies. And part of his process was he went out to other agents and said, hey, we need people to help some of these tech companies. You need to test it. You need to offer them your opinions. You need to give them advice. You need to maybe be a therapist, whatever you need to be. And of course, I love doing that. So I was like, cool, I'm in. So I've had the opportunity to work with some of these companies. One of them is Risk Advisor with David Watson. We just started really kind of using it at my agency. So we're kind of new at it because that's going to change our workflows, the way we do the flows. There's one that does digital appraisals. So you don't have to go through that whole appraisal nightmare process with the jeweler. There is Cake, which is buying slices of people's book of business. It's like a marketplace.
Yep.
So my view is what I love is to get exposure to all these different indie tech things and see if they make sense for me, help these people out, offer my opinions. And I could be wrong, I could be right, but they're my opinions. So here they are, and take it or leave it. And if you think don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. But I'll give you my opinion and I'll be brutally honest with you. And so Weston Labs, I think is awesome for the industry. Because it's going to allow indie tech companies to come in, get a filter, I view it. I don't think Aubie would view it this way, but stamp of approval. Like, hey, it got through the cohort. They're legitimately going to help independent agents and not try to, take business from us, so to speak. But how can we as agents help them so it actually works in an independent agent's office?
Okay. So, so you're testing other tech that's either already in the marketplace or coming to the marketplace. Is that
Yeah, that's
correct?
pretty fair. Yeah, they seem to be at different stages. Like the DigiAppraise, which is the digital appraisals, they're kind of in the marketplace. Cake just went live about a week
Yep.
ago.
Yes, a week ago.
David Risk Advisor's been out in the marketplace quite a bit.
Yep.
He's active. So it's at varying levels. And again, it was the first cohort of 8 of them. And my role is honestly just to I raised my hand and said, yeah, I'll help. Tell me how to help. Tell me, I met some of the owners. We talked, they showed me a demo. I gave them some opinions, we go from there kind of thing. And, cause that way, at least they build it correctly.
Yes.
And they build it so it will actually help. Now, again, I could say one thing, someone else says something completely different. Then that owner of that new tech company has to figure out, okay, do I want customers like Rob who doesn't think this will work, or do I want customers like Brad who thinks it will work? And that's invaluable too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's good information for them.
Yeah. And there's and the group that is involved, I mean, it is, kind of in our industry, it's really the people who should be involved: Wes Anderson, Bradley Flowers, Avery Moore, Chris Paradiso, Sydney Rowe, Jeff Roy. I mean, these people with their tech are, they are decades above where you and I are.
100%. You look at who's on that board of directors, if that's what we want to call it, and it's like, okay, this has a lot of legs, and honestly, Aubie Knight's pretty damn impressive too. So, but yeah, you're right. The people there are bringing in the right companies that will help us. I mean, I had the opportunity to meet, I think 6 of the 8 so far. Every single one of them. Now, do I do a lot of appraisals? No. Like, I'm not working with a lot of high net worth. I'm trying to get there. So that one might not come into my agency right away. But if you're doing a lot of high net worth, diamond rings, all that, oh my God, that thing it's worth every penny. So, but yeah, they've got the right people. Aubie did a good job of bringing together the right people to get this done correctly. So.
Yeah. One that you mentioned within that, which I think is a very key piece of tech that more agencies should be using that probably aren't, is Risk Advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a platform off like this. I just recently signed up with Salt, which is a very similar piece of tech, and they are essentially both quote form gathering information, but in a very smart and intelligent way. Mm-hmm. They're integrated with other software out there that will, for example, at least I know for sure with Salt, on the auto quote form will integrate with other software to pull up drivers in the household, vehicles in the household. So when the customer is going through this form that you send them, they can select what drivers are in the household and what vehicles are in the household. It saves time for the customer. It takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes for them to fill out a form. On the home side of things, it will already pre-fill the replacement cost characteristics of their home, mm-hmm. which now I've only had it for about 30 days, but my short experience, that replacement cost estimates or the information that's been provided has been very accurate. But of course, the customer can review this and again, take out questions that they don't have to answer. It's already done for them. And then they ask all the key questions that we need to ask, whether it's about an updated roof, and provide a recommendation. We recommend $20,000 of water sewer backup, whatever it is. So it takes a lot of our initial discovery call information out and provides it right to us. My favorite part about it is not only that integration, so it's easy to use. It has a very clean interface. My favorite part is the integration with our quick rating software, Easy Links, that it pre-fills that information directly into easy links. And it is about, they tell you about 95% of the information is converted over. And I'd say that's pretty accurate. With what is converted over. Part of the problem with all these tech platforms is, how do we avoid the duplication? We have all these that we have to kind of duct tape together. And for you and I, Rob, who are, we are forward thinking and willing to get in there, but it's not our specialty, right? Where we have to kind of muddle our way through to get these things stitched together. This is slick and something that directly avoids this duplication that we were trying to do. So I love it. Tell me a little bit about what your experience has been with Risk Advisor.
We got it probably about 2 months ago. And I'll be honest here. David and I had known each other for a while, and I just couldn't figure out how to use it in my agency. That's how, I guess, whatever I was. I just was like, I know this is a great product, but how is this going to work? Now, our problem was workflow. We started our management system. We manually put it in, and then that flows to the rater, and then we quote off of that. And then it flows to Zoom. So our flow was backwards. It still is to this day, right? There's a conversation in the industry of, why are you putting things into the management system when they're a prospect?
Yeah.
It's a valid conversation. So that's the way we were flowing it. So we have to change our flow. The reason I got Risk Advisor was to learn it. And I'm acquiring an agency that has no technology at all.
Oh,
I mean, nothing. Paper files. It is what it is. That's where it's going to be tested with them, because as they start quoting, they don't need to be part of the management system at this point. I mean, the policies will be there, but I want to teach them the proper flow. So once we get that going, I'm probably going to have the rest of my team. Risk Advisor, what's cool about that is you input it once, and then you can send it. You can send an email or a task to a virtual assistant to put the shell into Hawksoft, because that you only need a shell in the management system at this point, but it will flow to everything else, right? And you can have Zapier, you can have whatever. So honestly, I'm meeting with David this afternoon to try to figure out this flow. So for me, I know it's going to be part of my agency. I just don't know the flow I want to do. And I don't want to do a flow and change it a week later and then change it a month later. And then I'm just going to upset my team. So it's going to be a big part of what we do. But right now I'm just trying to see what it does, figure out the flow I want to go in my agency, and then it will be implemented. So that's where I am with Risk Advisor. But it is really slick, very easy, pulls third-party data. He just added, I think, driver's license, things like that. It's just that aesthetically, it's more appealing putting that in there than anything else.
Yeah.
And I think David's only, as is Salt, as is some of the other input systems, they're really at the tip of the iceberg right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much more that they will be doing as we go down this road. So
just, to back up, I've thrown that right into, this is a part of our process. I'm in the same camp of, I don't start a Hawksoft prospect until they're an insured, or at least it starts in agency Zoom. Everything pre-bind is going to be agency Zoom.
Yep.
And that's where it goes. The only issue with that is that, we can, and I just don't know how. I can't take a closed agency Zoom prospect and then, or customer, and then create a Hawksoft file with it.
Yep. You can't do that yet. You will be able to do that shortly.
So that's the one issue there, but that's where I've chosen to start it. So what Salt is, or Risk Advisor is the same thing. They're automated quote forms. And for us, this was a problem area for us, because although I did create in the past digital jot form quote forms and digital gravity forms that were on the back of our website, and they were slick, but they didn't quite connect with everything. And then of course we had others on our team. Well, I still want to use the paper application and write it down. And, and so what I kind of figured out was we had 4 different quote forms floating out there. And then people can't always read my writing, which is why I went everything digital, because of others to read my chicken scratch notes. So I just I just put my foot down and said, this is how we're doing it. This is the quote form. This is what we're sending out. You can either send this link to the customer, or they have an option to fill it out. Either way has the the automation to be able to do it, and that still flows. That starts our workflow for a new customer.
Yep.
And then that kicks off. That is after a customer fills that out, there's a zap that creates the new prospect in Agency Zoom, which then triggers the automation messages that go out to that new prospect, and we're off and running with our new prospect workflow. Again, I've only had it 30 days. I love it. I love it, and I would say for those that don't have it, I would strongly look into one of those two programs, Risk Advisor. I don't know if there's another one out there. Risk Advisor and Salt, those are the two that I know of.
Yep. There's got to be another one, but those are,
I'm sure.
I mean, you're right. They're all kind of the same. It's just quote import. It's what is it connected to? How do you connect, move data? Because the goal is single entry.
Yes, that's
the goal
right.
is collecting the data as seamlessly as possible from the client, getting it where it needs to get to, and the ultimate is getting it to some kind of rater to quote it. And that's, like I said, that's the process we're working on. That will change. It's once the acquisition happens, that's when it's going to change.
Yeah.
Just gonna, because we didn't have Agency Zoom when we first got Hawksoft, so we had no choice. So that's why that process.
Yeah.
Worked, right. But now we have to change it.
It's not wrong.
No. Oh no. It's and that's why I think it's important that people have a conversation like we're having right now of, okay, neither one's wrong. It's just what's better for your agency. There's a couple different ways to do it. Just pick one and do it. Don't, like you said, you ended up with 4 quote forms.
Yeah.
I don't want to end up with one person in my office doing it one way, one doing it the other way. Because like you said, once I bind a policy, now I need a back end process to make sure there's a shell on the management system that will accept the download.
Yeah.
Right. So, and again, that's a whole nother conversation. But,
yes.
But that's kind of where we're at.
Well, and that's the beauty of some of these things is to learn from other people and what they're doing. And then sometimes you'll run into somebody, out there, you meet somebody at a conference and hear what they're doing. They're like, what? How did I not think of that? Oh my God, we're doing that tomorrow.
So some of the things people have said to me, I'm like, that is brilliant. And that is so obvious now that
yes,
I had no idea. I mean, I was like, and you're like, wow. But that's why you need that interaction with other people, people willing to help you, that go, oh, we do it this way. And I'm like, oh my God, that's freaking brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. And I probably would never have thought of it unless I stumbled upon it or something. But that's where the interactions come in.
I think we just have a tendency just to keep our head down and plow through, and we're handling and have so many balls in the air as it is, that sometimes we don't stop and try and figure out how to fix our system. So it's just common.
Yeah. I think it's very common. Very common.
Tell me about, which I know nothing about. Tell me about Leo and what that is.
Leo's another one. So Leo is a company out of Israel. There's people use Reference USA. It's got a different name now. It got bought by someone. But Leo takes it to the whole next level. So Leo, I'll give you the end game of Leo, and then we'll back up to where we're at now.
Okay.
So the end game of Leo is you connect Leo. Leo now knows your book of business, and they will sort 40 million different kinds of companies. They will give you a ideal client list based on your current client list.
Really?
Yeah, not yet. That's the end game, right? So once you can talk to the management system, that's where it's going to get to. For now, what Leo does is it's a beautiful search engine that goes in and pulls information about companies. It connects LinkedIn profiles, contact information, 5,500 information, workers' comp information, blah, 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 blah. You can see how it just keeps going. It's all a matter of what's available in your state. So workers' comp's not available in New York, but it is available in other states. Now you can get the workers' comp information, So it's all a question of how many different databases can they connect to and tie it back to a company.
Okay.
I had the pleasure of meeting them early on, kind of walked them through some ideas, walked them through what, here's how insurance works kind of thing. And wonderful people, really know their stuff well. And this thing is going to really help people. I mean, right now I can create a list. I work with HVAC companies. Give me all HVAC companies within 25 miles of this zip code. Give me all, whatever you can see. And then it's connected to Agency Zoom. I can go click, 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 click. It all ends up in a pipeline in Agency Zoom.
Wow.
So just that integration is worth the price of admission, I believe. But when you look at the contact, it's going to give you the LinkedIn profile, the phone number, cell phone if they have it, email, revenue. Now, again, you can't always trust this information. All Leo is pulling from third parties, so the data might not be right. But it's, think about, health benefits, 5,500. You pull all that information. I'm working with a financial advisor who we want to use an ERISA bond as just a way to have a different conversation. I can go in and look at all their 401k and see if they have an ERISA bond. I will steal from a friend of mine who had one of his best clients. He said, "Hey, who's your best referral partner?" "Oh, we're looking for these kind of people." He went into Leo with that NAIC code and created a list and sent it to him and said, "You mean these kind of people?" Now, he didn't put out as much of it. I've not had a chance to call him and find out exactly what he did.
Yeah.
But he's also one of those agents who works with other people. But again, think of it as a database with 40 million different companies. And how do you want to slice and dice? And they keep adding tabs at the top. So it's like click 5,500, click workers' comp. The number of tabs is endless. But it's if you're a commercial based agency or you want to start doing commercial, it creates a call list. Worst case, it creates a call list that you pound. Like here's the yellow pages, folks.
Right. Better.
Yeah.
Better.
But that's why I started with here's where they're going to get to. Could you imagine I could go into Meet Leo and say, okay, I have 10, 15, 20 HVAC companies. I've got a little bit of this. So I have kind of niches in my book of business. Okay. Show me other companies that look like my current customers.
Yeah.
Boom. There's your list.
Oh, I love that. Now, what does something like that cost?
God, I think it's less than $100 a month.
Really?
No, it's dirt cheap. Oh, it's dirt cheap. I don't remember what it is. I might have gotten different pricing, but it's not. It's really, Reference USA, which is what everyone used to use, is free. Like if you have a library card, it's free.
Yeah.
It's very similar information, but what I think Meet Leo did well was they said, okay, we've got this basic thing, right? We got basic company name, address, phone number. Now let's connect with a common ID, other databases for independent insurance agents. Again, the 5,500, if you're doing all the medical stuff, the workers' comp. So Florida, I know because I work with David Carruthers, and I might be getting this wrong, but I'm going to give it a shot here. Florida puts out a lot more information about workers' comp. Like David can get a list of, the carriers, when they expire, all this other stuff. They could pull that right in there. And David could probably go in and go, hey, show me all customers that are manufacturers of X that their workers' comp expires in 3 months. There's a reporting functions. You're not doing ChatGPT, but, now he can connect his Hawks off to that and say, okay, show me all my ideal clients within a 50-mile radius of Tampa, throwing it out there. Because that workers' comp information is more available. New York doesn't have it as much. So it is, but think about just connecting all these different databases, and now you're building a client file or a prospect file.
Yeah.
It's going to keep getting better and better. Again, typical what I do. I hopped in early. Someone introduced me to, I don't remember who introduced me to him. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Let me give him a call, tell him who I am. Let's have a conversation, see what's going on. And it's changed dramatically in the last 6 to 9 months with what they've added to it. And they get it. Like they get it. So
that's massive. I got to look into that.
I will email and introduce you to a guy named Scott Engel, who's their head sales guy, and he's the guy you need to chat with, and he'll introduce you to the rest of the team.
Okay.
I'm going to make a note.
Thank you.
I do it.
Last one, then we're going to get this thing wrapped up. I know you've used in the past glove box, which is something a lot of agents looked at. It was something I was very interested in, but I just, I've decided with any of these pieces of tech, I'm not going to take anything on until I have a process for it.
Yep, that's important.
Until I'm prepared for it, because I learned the hard way of taking on too many things at one time, not being prepared, and not utilizing some of these things to the best of their potential. So I never did take on glove box, and I know a number have, and I know a number have been interested. So what did it do for you, and what did you see was the benefit of having it?
Honestly, glove box for us was never worked in my agency, and it was our responsibility.
Yeah,
it's very easy to buy software and say silver bullet, it's going to work. We had a 10% take rate from the initial onboarding, and that's about average. What we were awful at was, as people called in saying, hey, by the way, here's a link, you can get on an app. Da, da, da. I don't think most of our clients would use it, even if we had been better about that. And maybe now our clients, because we're getting different kinds of clients now, we're going a little up market, more technology savvy, so maybe that would work. But I know it works. I know people that love it, but it is a huge investment, and it's a process.
Yeah.
Like I had no process. Hey, you get on board. Okay, cool. I'm good. Let's give it a shot. I like the owners. They're good humans, and let's give it a shot. And just didn't, we could have done marketing to them. We did do a little bit of marketing. They were part of our onboarding. They were part of our renewals, but, sending someone an email saying, hey, we have an app. Obviously I didn't get a lot of hit.
Yeah.
And so, but, I think it's one of the, it's a decision. It's like all the stuff we've talked about today, all this software works, all this technology works, but you need a process. You need to understand how it's going to change your process possibly. And you need buy-in.
Yes.
I've brought in software. If you don't mind, we'll jump to Canopy Connect. We brought it in 2 years ago. Epic failure in my agency. Epic failure. Not Canopy's fault. That's my fault.
Correct.
100%. Epic. My team just, nope. We brought it back in 9 months ago. We are freaking killing it.
Yeah.
Killing it. Now, what's different? Nothing really. It's the same team. We have one less team member. It's more about mindset and hey guys, we are not going to quote a personal lines client unless they use Canopy Connect. And all of a sudden my team's like, wait a minute. So all those tire kickers and all the people with state minimums, they won't do that. So we're not going to waste our time. Our close ratio is going to skyrocket. And that's exactly what happened. Hey, I need a quote. Cool. Awesome. Here's a link. We need all your deck pages, driver's license. Well, I don't really want to disclose that. Well, I'm not the agent for you. We move on, get to know fast. And Canopy really, really helps us with that.
Yeah. That's a perfect example. We had Canopy Connect, loved it. Great organization, great piece of software.
Yep.
Our adoption rate was very poor, and that had nothing to do with them. I had 2 agents that were using it because they saw the value in it. And again, I think it's part of a process. You build it in the process to say, this is what we need. This is what we need to do. And I eventually let it go because as I just let it go last month because part of our SALT, they have that software built in, which is, I don't think is quite as slick as Canopy Connect, but to the point of, it's not the software's fault if you're not adopting it, which was also one of my fears of taking on glove box. And if I didn't institute something to say, this is how we're going to use it, I wasn't going to waste my money with it, no matter how good it was. It's not going to do us any good if we're not using it.
Well, I'm guilty of this 100%. Is, oh, that's really cool. Go to IAOA and walk through the vendor hall and say you need 12 different things. And we've all done it. And if you say you haven't, you're a liar, because everybody's done it. Same way everyone has had an E&S problem when they didn't get payment in time and they ate that premium.
Yeah.
But you're right. I can see some really cool technology, but you've got to figure out whether it works in your agency. It's fine to get demos. I think that's a smart thing to do. But like you said, you need to create a process. You need buy-in from your team, and it needs to add value.
Yeah.
I don't view any of this as a expense. We can talk around and say, okay, Canopy Connect, I think it's public, $100 a month. Okay, great. But my view is, if I get one client that uses it, now we tend to get 10 to 15 each month.
Yeah, good.
But if I get one, okay, so each one's $10. How much time have I saved?
Yeah.
Going back and forth with, oh, I need your date of birth, I need your license, I need your deck pay, and how much time have we saved by getting rid of the tire kickers?
Yeah. Time. Right? And on that side, gives you some data to work on too. Half the time it's going to give you an edge in what you're selling, to say, did you know your State Farm deductible here is 1% on your home? That means your deductible is $6,000.
Yep. Which is why we don't quote. I don't quote. If someone sends me deck pages with the premium whiteout, I send them right back and say, have a nice day. I'm usually not that rude, but that's basically what I say to them, because this is not about getting the lower price. I tell them flat out, I can beat any price you send me. I can easily beat it. There's enough ways to manipulate a quote where I can beat your price. You don't want a Form 1 ACV homeowner policy on a $600,000 home. They don't even, and that's where Canopy Connect comes in, because everyone can do it. It proves to me they're tech savvy. They have their online access, which is good. And it's literally, if I can figure it out, anybody can. And it gives us all the information. People think it's kind of cool. We can do it from our phones. You can QR code it. We use it for our cross sells. Like, we have a template. So if you have a home and no auto, there's a template that was built, and you get that as part of your renewal process. Hey, you've got your auto, you don't have your home. Click on this link. You can send us information. I know we're running out of time, but here's the best story of Canopy Connect. I had a gentleman, a real estate investor, came out to me and said, hey, I've got about 45 properties. I said, awesome. Let's start chatting about them. And I said, hey, listen, some of these homes are in your name. Let me send you a link. I want to see your auto, your home, and your umbrella to make sure that you have enough liability coverage. I got back 25 deck pages. Wow. And I called him and said, do you realize you have 25 homes in your name? No, I don't. Well, they're insured in your name. I said, so you have one of two problems. Number one, they're incorrectly insured. You mean it should be an LLC and not your name, or you've got the flip side. And I said, you sent me 25 deck pages of 25 properties that is in you and your wife's name, and you do not have an umbrella. And he was like, oh my God. I said, yes. So again, he didn't even know what he didn't know.
Yeah, right.
But Canopy dropped it all for me. So that was kind of like,
yeah, that's a great example of allowing, one of these pieces of tech to make us better.
Exactly. And that's what they're for. Make us better, make us more efficient, make our team happier and less stressful.
Yeah. Rob, I kept you way over time, as I figured we probably would.
I kept you way over time. That's where the blame should be.
I knew this would be fun. And so thank you very much for sharing and taking your time this afternoon. I know you're busy. Everyone else, thank you for listening to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Brad.